All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Sunday, October 12th. Fuck it, it's a raw feed. We're doing it live in studio. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat. So, Clayton, it is Startober, and we have had star after star. Of course, the last episode we had the great Kelly Keegs on the show, and she was talking Taylor, and she brought in the numbers. What a star she was. And today we have the man, the icon, the legend. And right now,
Box office daddy?
The box office daddy. He is such a box office daddy that right now he had to jump out. Now, this is why you have to watch this on YouTube. You're not seeing this if you're only listening to the podcast feed. You're seeing on YouTube that our guest immediately had to jump up and leave the set because he had to go get a pizza out of the microwave that he was delivering to his kids. He is the true box office daddy.
Yep.
In that he feeds mother and baby. He feeds his children with microwavable pizza.
You know what he also feeds mother and baby with?
What?
Money from his Substack.
Wow.
That you owe him.
You owe him. You owe him this. In fact, he should not sit back down in this chair. And again, this is why you have to watch the YouTube, because you're looking at, I feel like Clint Eastwood because I'm sitting next to an empty chair.
Yeah.
And he should not sit back down in that chair until at least 30 more people subscribe to the Outside Scoop paid Substack.
Paid. You can subscribe for free, but don't do that.
No.
Subscribe and put your money where your mouth is.
Yes. And until you do that, he should not sit there. 30 more people. And look, we're Clint Eastwooding it. We are sitting next to an empty chair. You could see this on the YouTube. Man, I'll tell you what. I get why Clint Eastwood did that at the convention. Because it is a powerful statement right now to be putting on a show next to an empty chair.
Yeah, only the greatest can do this.
Yes.
And we are the greatest.
Yes.
And Clint.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the list. Nobody else has done that.
I know he's sort of soft retired, Clint Eastwood.
Well, Warner Brothers pushed him out. So, I mean,
that is the comeback movie. And again, now that we're living it, and you can see this on YouTube because we are YouTubers. Hey guys. Now that we are broadcasting next to an empty chair, I want to see that as an entire movie. I want Clint Eastwood to make a film based on his empty chair convention speech.
So it's sort of like Jobs.
Yes.
But the only thing he's covering is the time before he talked to the chair, when he talked to the chair, which would be the bulk of the movie.
Yeah.
And then the after effects, the reverberation.
Yes.
In pop culture, in politics.
Yes.
Of the talking to the chair.
Yes. I want to see the scene before Clint Eastwood when he was thinking of, I'm going to talk to a chair. The RNC, I'm going to talk to a chair. And that long conversation he had with, I'm guessing his Unforgiven stars, Morgan Freeman, Gene Hackman, when he told them about his plans to talk to an empty chair.
Do you think he talked? Well, yeah, he probably talked to them because I don't think he would talk to Bradley Cooper because of Bradley Cooper's sort of political affiliations.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Well, had they done American Sniper at the point when Clint Eastwood talked to the empty chair?
No, I don't. Maybe that's a great question. Maybe. So if so.
Yeah.
This is great for the movie because you see Bradley Cooper on the set of that hit movie.
Right.
And he's holding the fake baby.
Yeah.
And Clint comes up and he's like, listen, I know we were on a timetable. I only do one take.
Yeah.
But I got to ask you about this empty chair idea I've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Bradley just tosses the baby. So he has sat down. We are no longer broadcasting next to an empty chair. Scott, we, of course, used what you just did as inspiration to talk about what should be Clint Eastwood's next movie, which is a dramatization of his famous empty chair speech at the RNC. Do you agree that should be Clint Eastwood's final movie?
No.
Okay.
Because your number 2 was pretty good, and you might as well go out on a higher note. And I can't imagine that being, at best, it's a weird curiosity, like 15, 7. The one where he reenacted the Paris
1417? 1417? Yeah.
Something with Paris. It's been a while.
Yeah, I think it's
weird, but at least it was interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think much like that film, if if Clint Eastwood does a feature-length dramatization of when he spoke to the empty chair should play itself, the real empty chair, the same way the real heroes on the Paris train play themselves. I think we need the real chair to play itself in this film.
I don't know what kind of shape that chair is in. It's been 13 years. Jesus.
Yeah, that on a lot.
Yeah, is it still camera ready?
Yeah.
That was so long ago. I still had hope.
Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, Chris Christie may have sat on that chair since that night, so the chair might not be able to film anymore.
Is that a bridge too far?
There we go.
There he is.
The daddy is back. Our box office daddy, Scott Mendelson. He's finished delivering pizzas. He's here to be on the BO Boys. Welcome back, Scott. So, Clayton, let's start off with a plow. So, can you give us a plow for the box office weekend of Friday, October 10th, 2025?
Number one. Oh, yeah. Number one, TRON Ares made $33.5 million in its first frame. Number two, ROOFMAN made $8 million in its first weekend of release. Number three, One Battle After Another made $6.6 million, down 39%. It lost 507 theaters. It's at $54.5 million in its third weekend of release. Number four, Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, made $3.3 million, down 37%. It hemorrhaged theaters. Losing 458 theaters. It's at $26.4 million in its third weekend of release. And number five, another newbie, Soul on Fire, made $3 million in its first frame. And that is your top five.
And I just want to just note number 8 from A24, The Smashing Machine made $1.7 million, a near Morbius drop of 69%. It's at $9.8 million total after 10 days. Scott Mendelson.
Wow.
One of, I think, the first conversations we had years ago when you first deemed us worthy of your presence, joined the show. We talked about The Rock as a movie star. After this Smashing Machine, do we feel like The Rock is in a lower place than he maybe has ever been as a movie star? Because this was supposed to be, he's righting the ship, he's going dramatic, but also this was supposed to be a A24 mainstream play. It is a bomb. Is The Rock at his lowest point? Is he at his rock bottom?
I mean, yes and yeah, sure. I mean, if this film had played like Snitch and opened with $12 million, I would have said, fine, whatever. I don't know how the tracking got 20. I think that set everybody up for disappointment, but I digress. Like a lot of things and people in terms of the entertainment industry, Dwayne Johnson is not anywhere near of a draw in the 2020s as he was in the 2010s. And that in itself is fine. I mean, time marches on, blah, blah, blah. The problem with all of this, we talk about, is DiCaprio as big of a draw in the 2020s as he is in the 2010s? And, can Dwayne Johnson still pull a crowd with or without an IP, relatively speaking? It's that Hollywood has, almost 20 years now, give or take, been terrible about creating and nurturing new stars. So to a certain extent, the industry is going to continue to rely on people that were, peak popular in the 90s, the 80s, 2000s, if we're being nice, the 2010s. And that's where you have the ridiculous situations like we're seeing now where and this is a streaming movie, so forgive me, but, two streaming movies. Mark Wahlberg twice starring in what I would consider a young man's action adventure stories with Infinite and Play Dirty. He's 54 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And who is the star of TRON Ares this weekend? It is not the young and, chipper 25-year-old Garrett Hedlund, not that he was much of a draw back in the day, or even the 32-year-old Jeff Bridges in 1982. It's 53-year-old Jared Leto.
Wow.
And while he looks very good for his age, and this isn't a deal breaker artistically for me in the film, it was a little weird watching this 53-year-old man basically, I would argue, cosplaying his own childhood self-insertion, I'm the special Jesus Tron fantasies.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to keep making these stories that are, compelling heroes' journeys, among other things, having them constantly star people that were, when they were famous, they were 40, but now they're approaching 60. It's certainly not going to help get the kids in the theaters.
Well, now, Pat, you saw this movie, right? You saw Tron, and
I did see Tron Ares,
Jared
yes.
Leto's character is supposed to be created to be what, like the perfect assassin or something? Isn't he a perfect?
He's supposed to be a perfect man. He's supposed to be like a perfect digital creation that, could be a war machine at the behest of another Elon-esque villain, and he is supposed to be perfect, and he's got the long hair. Obviously, he's a Jesus figure, he's a Christ figure.
As am I, so
as are you.
Yes.
But you know what? You're not yet in your 50s. You're still young enough. You're closer to Christ's age when he died than you are to Jared Leto's age now.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
Is that, listen, I don't want to be ageist because we're no spring chickens here.
Oh, no.
Advertisers don't care about us anymore. But if you're going to create the perfect
man, the perfect
why go any bit over 33?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Just like it just doesn't make sense.
But like you said, Scott, where are those 33-year-old stars that are ready to be the lead of a Tron Ares? I mean, Timmy can't be in every movie. As much as I think Hollywood wishes they had a Tron Ares type, machinery that they could just make Timmy after Timmy to be in all these movies, he can't be, and there really isn't anyone else.
No, because now we're at a point that this problem has gone on for so long that the would-be new stars of the past, the prior generations, not to pick on specifically Ryan Gosling, but for a second, let's do Ryan Gosling.
Let's do it.
Great actor, as far as I know, decent human being, can't open an envelope outside of a surefire safe thing. That's fine. Most of them can't. But this has been going on so long that even he's in his 40s.
Right.
Where you're wondering why young people aren't showing up to The Fall Guy, where it's starring two actors in their mid-40s. And it's the first trailer is scored to a 40-year-old Bon Jovi song, You Give Love a Bad Name.
Right.
And you're wondering why the kids aren't showing up.
Right. It is true. The actors who they're still Hollywood is still trying to make are in their 40s. Where back in the day, I think to when I was a kid, and you'd have like Robert Mitchum making a cameo in Cape Fear, and he's probably as old then as Jared Leto is now as the star, as the perfect man in Tron Ares.
Well, Jackie Brown, Robert Forster, right? Is that Jackie Brown?
Yes, Robert Forster was making a comeback, and I think he's younger than Jared Leto was in Tron Ares, and younger than The Rock in The Smashing Machine. Also, staying on The Smashing Machine for a minute, he's playing someone who is supposed to be in that movie in his 20s. And again, not to be ageist, but come on, Rock. He's playing, he's in his 50s playing in his 20s, and he expects teens and tweens and 20-year-olds to go see this.
And I think there's a huge difference when we're talking about age. It's very different, say, and again, I don't have the ages in front of me, forgive me, having Will Smith starring in Focus, where he's basically playing a guy his own age, engaging in an adult skewing adventure with actual profanity and sexuality and all that fun stuff, versus, again, Will Smith is actually more or less avoided this because even the Bad Boys movies are midlife crisis pictures. I think that's one reason why they work.
Right. He deals with it. He deals with his age.
Yeah, but
and Martin Lawrence deals with his age.
Yes. But again, it'd be like, Mark Wahlberg. And keep in mind, Infinite was supposed to go to theaters before COVID. So that was a Paramount theatrical release in theory, where it's basically, I don't know if you've seen it, and don't if you haven't, but the opening scene starts with Dylan O'Brien just kicking ass and looking awesome. And then his character gets killed. And then his consciousness basically ends up inside the body of Mark Wahlberg, who is acting out this, first Matrix, I, have done nothing with my life. I'm unfulfilled. Look out, I'm the special. But again, he's in his 50s.
Right.
I mean, that's the Cruise template, though, right? Because he was supposed to pass off Mission Impossible, and then he said, no, I'm not doing that. And then he was supposed to, Maverick became what it was. But I'm sure there was a level at first of like, oh, are we going to pass this off to a younger generation? And by the end of the movie, you're like, no, we want more Tom. That's all that we want from that.
Well, and even in Mission Impossible Fallout, Tom Cruise was a mere 48 years old.
Mhm.
And, obviously not a spring chicken. I'm not 48 yet. But there was also, in that movie, the idea that, even if he was still the star, he would be more of a Jim Phelps type character in terms of being the boss. But then, and I say this as somebody who thinks Rogue Nation is the best of the series with Fallout or Ghost Protocol Far Behind, but because the film's kind of gotten to this thing where part of the appeal was watching Tom Cruise play Evel Knievel, if that's, then it started like the older he got, the crazier his action heroism had to be, which, as someone who really didn't like the last two installments, I think hit a brick wall.
Right. And I think with The Rock, his making up for his age has been the older he gets, the bigger he gets, or at least that was the case in Smashing Machine. And I don't think, it's clear the young audience did not respond to a old man who is gigantic. That is not what the young people these days want. They want Timmy, a young man who is tiny, as opposed to The Rock, an old man who is the size of a house.
Well, they want young, occasionally scrawny, potentially devious young men who might actually have sex.
Yes.
As opposed to giant, strapping people that cry when the girl wants to kiss them.
Yes. Yeah. And that is what The Rock is. It's a tough spot to be in. We talked about this on the last episode, and some listeners did reach out to us because we talked a lot about how after the first week in the Smashing Machine, The Rock was going to get a statement out there saying, we are in production on Jumanji 3. We've got Jack Black. Don't worry. It's happening. Forget the Smashing Machine. All we care about is Jumanji 3 and Termina. That's all we care. Jumanji 4. I'm sorry. Jumanji 4. Because of course the Robin Williams movie is the first Jumanji.
Yeah.
And then readers reached out right away that it is in production. This was, I guess, announced a while ago. So Scott, what is the state of Jumanji 3 for The Rock, 4 for the series? Is Jack Black in it? Because honestly, Jack Black should get the majority of the salaries of anyone on this movie.
Now.
But is that The Rock sort of get out of jail free card that there will be another Jumanji movie? And obviously there's also the live action Moana, which we forgot to mention last episode.
Well, my friend, I don't want to name him in case, whatever, but he has a theory about the Moana remake, which is that Dwayne Johnson made that video and released it before telling Disney and bet that they would just say, fine, fuck it, we'll make Moana.
Wow.
Again, he's half joking, but that almost seems plausible.
That seems plausible. I think your friend is right.
Jumanji, which I think was announced right after Red 1, so same concept, different day. Forgive me if I'm incorrect on that. That has now changed from a movie that The Rock now needs Jumanji more than Jumanji needs The Rock.
Yep.
And that's not to say it would be a giant, it wouldn't make more money with him than without him. And obviously it's a package deal. People like the actors as those characters. That's why, again, that's how this is supposed to work. Where even if there's an IP involved, you still become attached to the marquee characters, and or you enjoy watching actors playing around in some way with their self-image. And so yes, Jumanji will be fine. And again, the last film cost 130, did 800 million. If this one costs, and I'm making this up here, 160 because of inflation and only does 600, oh no.
But at this point, I would say The Rock is maybe fourth most important part of this next Jumanji movie. I think Jack Black first, for sure. Absolutely. It's not even close. Kevin Hart slid all the way down. He's a Streamo guy. He's a commercial guy. He's a Riyadh Comedy Festival guy. That's how you know Kevin Hart, not a movie star really anymore. Danny DeVito, I think, is more important to this next Jumanji movie than The Rock. People love Danny DeVito in that last movie. I think DeVito's more of a draw for this next movie than The Rock.
You are forgetting about the most important part of Jumanji for those of us of sound mind and body, which is, of course, Karen Gillan.
Yes.
Otherwise known as the best Karen in Hollywood.
Yes, that's where I was going. She's also ahead of The Rock in importance. So you're right. That's the key. He needs them more than they need him. If he dropped out, as long as you got Jack Black, Karen Gillan, DeVito, that movie's going to do fine. And you do your
Yeah.
sort of hints at the original Robin Williams movie. I think if you get Dunst in this next movie, in this next Jumanji movie, you don't need The Rock. I do think
I
that's the big
adore
value
Dunst.
add.
She should have won an Oscar by now, multiple times over. But I will argue, all due respect, that she is worth dozens of dollars to the people they want to show up to a Jumanji movie.
Okay. Well, do we want to? We've buried The Rock here.
Well, yes and no. I think what very simplistically speaking, what does The Rock need to do to expect that he even cares about this? Because again, the guy's got more money than God. So if he still cares, you're already rich. Just be interesting in other people's movies, whether that's art films, whether that's pot boilers. It's the stereotype would be, call up Quentin Tarantino and have him put you in a small role in a movie, but that kind of thing. And
Right.
I think working with this one of the Safdie brothers, if I mispronounced that, I apologize, was good in terms of doing something different. The idea of him playing a real life MMA fighter wasn't much of a stretch. And I think audiences realized that it wasn't much of a stretch. And I think they recognized that the film, whether you like it or not, was such a craven attempt to say, I'm a serious actor now, give me my Oscar. It wasn't really my fault that I took ungodly amounts of money to star in those popular movies that you and or your kids liked. I'm a serious person now. That I think they smelled what The Rock was cooking, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And even people throw out McConaughey, but other than Interstellar, most of his post-McConaissance films actually flopped because in the real world, nobody gave a damn.
Wow.
And they liked the romantic comedies that he made that were popular and somewhat well-liked and had fan bases. And whether he intended to or not, and I will assume he didn't because he seems like a decent person, the idea of coming out and making this huge deal about, I'm not going to make those, my words, not his here, I'm not going to make those girly romantic comedies anymore. I want to be taken seriously and make manly movies where I kill people or protect women, or in some cases, don't protect women if you've seen Killer Joe.
Oh, we have.
That's how I'm be taken seriously as a real actor.
Yeah.
And I think that's an overall pop culture problem going back to at least as long as I've been doing this, if not longer, where, to use a simplistic concept, movies like Joker are automatically taken more seriously than movies like Lucy in the Sky, even though they're the same movie. And I like them both relatively. And more importantly, frothy, feel-good, aspirational entertainment of a certain quality are taken less seriously than feel-bad, serious movies about manly men who are terrible people, but it's okay because they love their kids and or learn a lesson in the end.
So you think McConaughey's next movie, following The Lost Bus, which is on Crapple TV Plus, his next movie should
be pretty good.
I've seen it, and listen, we've had the co-star of that movie on this show. I don't know if you caught that episode. We had America Ferrer on the BO Boys last month. We love that movie, but it should have been in theaters. I think that's a movie that could have done business in theaters. That said, McConaughey's next movie should be Failure to Launch 2. He should get back to the rom-coms. Is that what you're saying? Because you know what? I think there is he's zigged for a while, and it's time to zag back into give us Failure to Launch 2. He's still living at home with his parents. 60s, right?
Well, there you go. The same problem where nostalgia, again, Freaky or Friday.
Bradshaw's still alive. You could still have him live in Bradshaw.
But something like that, jokes aside, it's another example of what, frankly, Tron Ares is, which is a kids' film aimed at nostalgic adults, with Hollywood wondering why kids don't give a damn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's get to Ares because
let's get to Ares.
So we read Anthony D is for Disney, D'Alessandro's Deadline article, and he mentions in his Saturday write through that Tron Ares is a victim of COVID, in the sense that COVID, I know, and not current COVID.
Now listen, you that is why you have to watch us on YouTube, not just listen to the podcast. We are YouTubers. Hey guys. Scott Mendelson burst out laughing when Clayton said Tron Ares was a victim of COVID. That was a genuine. He hasn't laughed. Scott Mendelson hasn't laughed that hard since the hair gel scene in There's Something About Mary in 1998. That is the hardest he's laughed.
I chuckled at that, and I admired the skill and craft involved, but I just laughed harder now. Again, I don't like to pick on I don't like to pick on, I don't pee in my own pool. How about that?
Right. I love
that.
Yeah.
Blaming Tron Ares that came out in 2025 for a pandemic that started in 2020, and for most people, all due respect, was mostly a past tense concept by 2022. And again, that's a much bigger, broader cultural conversation. Mea culpa.
Yes.
No, if anything, you'd argue that Tron Legacy would have gotten more. Tron Ares would have gotten more of a boost by people that were stuck inside with Disney Plus, who might have watched Tron Legacy for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
I totally agree. Yeah. I mean, Scott, you said it so much better than I even could. And when I read that, I did have a similar sort of reaction.
Well, you got angry, Clayton, because beforehand at BOHQ at the water cooler, Clayton mentioned this. He's like, I got to talk about what Anthony Diaz for Disney D'Alessandro said. Tron could be excused by COVID. And you got angry. You were flipping tables over, ripping water coolers out of the wall. Scott laughed it off.
Yes, I was angry yesterday when writing my Friday write-up. Today, whatever. I mean, it's not to reiterate what I wrote yesterday, because whatever. But I mean, this is the kind of movie that Hollywood keeps making, expecting that this time it's going to have a different result. And they get away with it because the notion of a Tron 3 sounds sexy in shareholder calls and investor reports, and the media pretends like it's a big deal because either they don't want to piss anybody off, or like they're scared of getting metaphorically sniped by the fan base of this property or another. And when the film comes out and makes $0, the studios get to just say, I guess nobody's going to the movies anymore. Or, oh no, go woke means, oh no, go woke, go broke is true after all. Oh no. When in truth, nobody wanted a fucking Lightyear movie. Nobody wanted a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford. Nobody wanted a third Tron film. Nobody wanted another Terminator. Nobody's going to want another Judge Dredd.
Is there another Ghostbusters in production?
You know what? At least they kept those cheap.
Yeah, if Tron Ares cost
probably not
$90 million, it'd still be a bad move because it's a Tron movie starring Jared Leto in his 50s. But at least it would have cost not 170 million, whatever this movie costs. This is, you talked about the age of these stars, these male stars. It's the age of these executives too, because they're the ones who look at Tron and say, oh yeah, that's the hot young property is Tron and Ghostbusters. That's what the kids want because I'm 70 and that's what I watched when I was 10 years old.
That is a huge problem, because part of it is, and this is a cultural thing, obviously this is politics as well, where nobody retires anymore. So the people that were in touch with the pulse of the youth and or young adult and or movie-going culture in the 1980s, 90s, 2000s are still the ones running the various studios, and don't seem to get that Julia Roberts was a star 30 fucking years ago.
Yep. And
not to pick on her, but Nicolas Cage, Tom Hanks, etc.
And Julia Roberts she's doing her dramas, she's not, but you said it, the boomers never retired. These movie stars don't retire, and these IPs don't retire anymore. Tron should be living on an island, just enjoying the fruits of its labor in full retirement. Instead, Tron will not retire. There was a time when our dad's IP retired.
Yeah.
Shane retired.
Yeah, he walked into the sunset.
We didn't get 5 Shane movies when we were kids that were saying, hey, you 8-year-old in the 80s, here's the biggest movie this summer. It's Shane.
Howdy Doody threw himself into a wood chipper.
Yes.
He said, that's it. I'm mulch now.
These IPs retired, or if we'd get an IP reboot when we were kids, they were cheap, and they were meta. So it'd be like, here's your Beverly Hillbillies movie, and it cost $3 million to make.
Here's your Brady Bunch movie.
Here's your Brady Bunch movie, and it's about the fact that we all know this is really old. And that's a difference. If this was a Tron Ares movie that was about how goofy the people from Tron are, and it cost $20 million and was a spoof of Tron, sure. But they're presenting these old IPs as if they were supposed to be cool.
Yeah.
And that is the problem.
And the thing is, listen, we're not here to prop up movies, or we're not here. I think what I'm trying to get to here is where it's like when someone like Anthony D is for Disney, D'Alessandro, blames
who's a friend,
blames COVID for this movie flopping. It sends a message that movie going isn't back at all, right? And it is, but it's not back. You can't defend these musty IPs and blame the audience for being scared, and that's why they didn't come back. When you look at the Conjuring movie that opened to 82, it's exactly what you said, Scott. It said people who were at home during COVID who didn't get to see the last Conjuring movie in theaters rushed to the theaters to see it. And if people had that same love for Tron, they would have done it. That is the facts. And I think when you report anything different, you were reporting falsity.
Yeah.
And it's been 5 years of this stupidity, all due respect. You want to know why movie going isn't back? It's because theaters have to survive on shit like Tron Ares.
Yes. And these companies, these movie companies need to hear when their IPs are musty and need to be retired. And it's up to the audience who did it with their dollars. And it's up to us as people reporting on this to say, these are the reasons. Be better. We're not saying don't do big budget movies. We're not saying don't do big budget IP movies.
Give me a sci-fi space movie that's a big budget, of course, but also, it doesn't have to be Tron.
And also do it based on a video game, an actual video game that young people are playing.
Yes,
and don't do it. Sorry, you go, Scott. No, you go, Scott.
When people ask me what video game would you like to see a movie of next, I'm like, hopefully one I've never heard of.
Yes.
I mean, I don't need a Excite Bike the movie or Icarus the Adventure. Metroid. Although you can make a Metroid that looks cool even if you don't give a shit about Metroid.
Yeah.
But if you think of the execs now, it's Bob Iger at Disney. He's going to say, "Where's my Space Invaders movie?"
Yes,
because that's what he played probably when he was taking his kids to the arcade. I mean, if we're thinking of Bob Iger, he looks at Tron as a movie that he took his teenage son to in 1982. And so to him, he's like, oh yeah, the kids like that. My teenage son, who was a teenager 40 years ago, loved the first Tron movie. And that's how we get Tron Ares.
Did he? I mean, even 20 years ago, that Simpsons was making jokes about how nobody saw Tron.
Right. Yeah.
30 years ago. I don't know when the third or fourth Treehouse of Horror aired. That's whatever. But I mean, that was a classic joke from the 1990s, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's worse now is because, simplistically speaking, we've long been in a cycle aided by a fan-driven and SEO chasing media where the people that determine success on the investor level, shareholders, etc., the mere existence of IP and franchises in both volume and in terms of things being in development or production is more inherently valuable in the abstract than the concrete notion of whether or not these films or shows, once they are completed, are seen or watched by paying customers. And so now you're in a situation where, not to get all Me Too here, but Hollywood needs to learn that no means no. They've said no 3 times to Terminator. Yes. They've said no twice to Judge Dredd. We're getting another one. They've said yes to X-Men: The Last Stand. Hollywood still said no. Wait, they said no. They want Dark Phoenix done right, and they said no to that. Shocker, I know.
Right. Yeah, and they said no to Tron every single time. Right. I mean, that's the thing about
they've never said yes to Tron.
We've never said yes to Tron. I mean, at this point, Tron Ares $33 million. That's horrible for this movie. Also, I think we all are probably on the same page that this is going to have a Jared Leto Morbius-esque drop. I think this second weekend
Yes.
is going to fall off a cliff.
I mean, here's the thing. As someone that has no feelings about the first Tron, who hated the second Tron so much that I almost retired.
Wow.
I mean, again, I was 3 years, I was doing this as a hobby, but to me, it felt so much like we can take any of these generic tools and put them in a Mad Libs and shake them up, and you fuckers will treat it as the next Avatar. That's like, okay, if this is the future, I want out.
Wow.
But fortunately, it wasn't a giant smash. I mean, whatever. So I think moviegoers were like, no. I can tell. Moviegoers were like, I can tell the difference between a Prince of Persia and Pirates of the Caribbean. And they still can to a certain extent.
They still can.
The problem is because the notion of IP is still so valuable, you're still going to get people saying, well, what if we tried Prince of Persia again? This time it'll work.
Yeah.
And that gets made, that gets released, nobody shows up. And then the narrative is theaters need to adapt to the new normal. People aren't going back to the movies. Oh no, this, Prince of Persia was a bomb because they added minorities and women this time. That's what really happened. And there are no consequences to the distribution side.
Right.
Yeah, if anybody tries to blame Greta Lee for the failure of this movie, it's going to be so ridiculous.
Yep.
This thing opened in 4,000 theaters.
Yeah. Disney is probably already getting their list together. They're obviously funneling it through. Anthony Diaz for Disney went out and said it's COVID's fault. You're going to get smatterings of people saying, well, audiences probably didn't know who Greta Lee was. And if they would have had a stronger female co-lead, then she could have brought in an audience. She didn't have enough Instagram followers.
Yeah.
Obviously,
that'll get out there.
Sadie Sink is Jared Leto's love interest. I mean, obviously.
Right. There's gonna be people out there. It's like, why wasn't it Kendall Kardashian in the Greta Lee part? At least she would have brought the Instagram followers. That's gonna get out there.
Yeah, that'll be a variety Hollywood Reporter situation. Yeah,
and it really. And I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Do it.
When movies like this, or Lightyear, or Solo, or Terminator, or 90% of these films, when they perform exactly as anyone who pays attention could have predicted, the industry, and I'm including the media more often than not, will blame anything out there to avoid blaming, hey, you made a bad call on what movie to make.
Yes.
People were not interested in this film. And more often than not, there was nothing in the package you were constructing to entice anyone that wasn't already interested. Because God forbid we admit that Bob Iger fucked up when he thought people would like a young Han Solo movie. So no, the reason has to be too much Star Wars, or the backlash to the $1.3 billion grossing Last Jedi, or when Lightyear shits the bed. It can't be, well, what the fuck is this movie? Is it a remake? Is it a prequel? Is it a spinoff? Well, I like Lightyear, but why is it so grim and solemn, like a black hole for older kids?
Well, it's the real movie that inspired the toy.
Exactly.
It's the real movie that inspired the toy.
The reason Lightyear bombed has to be because of a half-second gay kiss between two grandmothers. And somehow the theatrical failure of Lightyear is somehow blamed on the never even got to go to theaters existence of Soul, barely Encanto, Turning Red, Luca, Raya, all these comparatively original and or diverse animated pictures that in the Disney world are treated like they actually had normal theatrical releases and bombed.
Yeah, they will not blame the executives. And then you look at something like Weapons, an original movie that people were interested in, and it opens to 40-something million, has great legs. Somehow that exists in a world where COVID didn't destroy theatrical movie going. But when Tron Ares bombs, no, this is a world where COVID did destroy the theatrical industry. Somehow I thought both those movies came out in the same universe, but I guess they didn't. I guess they didn't. So Tron Ares, is this the end of Jared Leto as this level of movie star? Does he have anything already in the can where he is the lead?
Like Skeletor in Amazon's surefire smash Masters of the Universe.
Oh my God.
Look, I'm a child of the 80s. He-Man was my first IP love, all things considered. I saw Masters of the Universe. I enjoyed Masters of the Universe. I still have fond feelings for it. But
But
that film in 1987, when films like Master of the Universe were kind of unusual and an unto itself event, because holy shit, they made a big budget live action fantasy based on that cartoon that I like. That's cool. That film bombed in 1987.
Yep.
I went to see that.
I
begged my aunt and uncle to take me to see that movie. And when I found out I loved that movie. And when I found out it did bad at the box office, I was devastated.
He cried. And then he vowed to become a box office analyst at that point. So he could at least understand the thing that destroyed him as a kid.
Yes. That's my origin story.
I saw it was a Snow White re-release. I was there with my mother and my sister's 3 years younger. And we're sitting in this because, hey, it's out of the vault. You got to go when they let something out of the vault for a couple of weeks. The trailer for Masters of the Universe played before that Snow White re-release. At that point, I had no idea when new movies were coming out until I saw the trailer. They showed that trailer. I freaked out. The entire Snow White movie, all I kept doing was poking my mom. We're going to go see the He-Man movie, right? We're going to go see the He-Man movie. When opening night, and of course it bombed. And I couldn't believe it. And that was then. That was when we were 6, 7, 8 years old, He-Man fans, and we couldn't save that movie. Where is the audience to go see a He-Man movie in 2026? I know they have the Kevin Smith cartoon on Netflix, but He-Man is not now what it was then. And also, Jared Leto is going to take over for Frank Langella. I mean, doesn't that feel like is Frank Langella alive? He should just still be.
They're the same age.
They're the same age. He should be playing Skeletor.
Without getting into the muck, he apparently was tossed off a Mike Flanagan show after allegations of misbehavior, and frankly, we haven't seen him since. So
right.
We'll see. But
so they got somebody completely unproblematic like Jared Leto. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Yes. They looked at the role of Skeletor and they're like, the one consistent we have to have in Skeletor is allegations. We have to have these allegations. Okay. So he's playing Skeletor when that bombs, that has to be the end of Jared Leto as a top line big budget movie star.
Morbius would have been the end.
Right.
I mean, not to get all white male privilege here. I am a white guy, but you can bomb as hilariously and spectacularly, partially because people don't like you in a movie like Morbius, a Marvel comic book movie back when that was still kind of an automatic event. It opened almost $40 million. And after all the jokes and after all the memes and after all the decades of allegations that no one, we all know about, but nobody talks about because whatever, that he could then get the keys to a $180 million Tron sequel. And get to play one of the most famous pop culture bad guys of the last 50 years in a mega budget Amazon movie.
Yeah, it is wild that the audience just keeps rejecting this guy. And listen, the Tron IP was musty and a disaster, no matter who was in there. But Leto being the star brought it down even more this weekend. There's a version of this where I guess Tom Holland is on the motorcycle, and it opens bigger for sure.
I think so. Yeah,
it's younger, it opens bigger.
Yeah, again, Lisa Lehman, one of my co-hosts on my pod, she mentioned this on social media. It's like, I'm paraphrasing here, forgive me, but it's like, Tron Ares has a scene toward the end where you have two 50-plus-year-old white guys sitting around talking about how much they love Depeche Mode. And we wonder why kids don't give a shit about Disney anymore.
That is, so I saw, I would say, an hour and a half of this film the other night. I had a little time to kill, and I got an AMC A-list pass. So I'm like, I'll go see as much of this movie as I feel like sitting through. I did leave after Jared Leto had his talk with the dude about Depeche Mode, and that is so dead on. That is an incredible encapsulation of why this bombed, that they were reminiscing about Depeche Mode. And Jared Leto, who is in his late 50s, was treated as the young man at the foot of this elder statesman.
Yes.
Meanwhile, he is pretty much Jeff Bridges' age. They are contemporaries.
20. He's 75. He's 53.
Yeah.
It's
wow. Yeah. That really nails it. That scene is everything. You're right. Let's move on though to the other newbie this weekend. Another movie I saw, and I love this movie, Roofman. Channing.
And forgive me, there is one more thing I want to say, and then I'll
go
shut
for
up.
it. Of course.
Two things. When we're talking, you mentioned Snow White, and that is a perfect example of when studios either make the wrong choice about what to make or put too many resources in a less surefire thing, and then just go out of their way to blame everything else except the movie in the abstract. Because surely had Rachel Zegler kept her mouth shut and or been less of a bitch to all those diehard Snow White's the greatest thing ever movie fans, surely Snow White would have made $1 billion, right?
Yeah, Snow White, a cartoon that peaked in popularity in 1951.
Well, yeah, and it got re-released when you were a baby.
When I was a babe, when I was a young babe dying to go see He-Man, Snow White was an old-timey thing I had to sit through to eventually get to He-Man.
Yeah.
In the 80s, I was at Snow White basically as punishment. I must have done something wrong. And my mom said, you know what? I'm not going to put soap in your mouth. I'm going to make you sit through Snow White in theaters. That's what that movie was 40 years ago.
But you were upset because you knew eventually Rachel Zegler would
ruin the
by
legacy
tweeting.
of Snow White by tweeting. I knew that.
You knew it. You felt it.
Yeah. Snow White is a movie where, you know what? If Rachel Zegler was starring in a Tangled live action update, a property that young kids now care about, it would be a giant hit. It would be a giant hit because that's an IP that kids care about, not Snow White.
Once again, they have wasted the notion of casting a non-white actor in a less than appealing property, and now we get the one that people might not show up for. And I'm speculating here. I imagine there's going to be fewer black people than in your stereotypical Woody Allen movie.
Wow.
And I mean, again, it's the thing with Marvel. It's like they waited to really diversify their lineup until people stopped caring or were about to stop caring.
Yeah.
And
it's a sad state of affairs with these studios and how they misuse these IPs, and these IPs just won't retire. Snow White should have retired when I was a kid. Snow White already should have been, again, feet up on the beach, sipping Mai Tai in retirement.
Yes.
And it said Snow White in 2025 is still trying to work. Won't retire.
Considering how well the princess fairy tale movies remakes did do, even Little Mermaid did 300 domestic, so clearly the audience was there. I mean, you make this movie for 160, and you follow the template of Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella, i.e., you make it good. I mean, you make it, even if you don't give a shit about this story, this is a good movie that you will enjoy watching with strong production values and good actors who are giving it their all, and etc.
Know what the 7 companions are going to be before you start production on the movie.
Although I will admit, my favorite part of that movie is the second act, where it's sort of a remake of The Beguiled.
Okay.
I did enjoy that.
Yeah.
Because, which was the one that doesn't talk?
Quiety.
Clearly. Anyway, I shipped them. So, yeah.
Okay.
All
right. I got to see this.
And I think the film does too.
So
anyway, the other thing is like Tron. I mean, we all saw this coming for 15 fucking years.
Yeah.
I've written a half a dozen articles saying, "Dear God, please don't do this." I don't want to toot my own horn. I'm wrong enough. But there was nobody on earth other than the people responsible for making this movie and the people whose financial livelihood depended for one reason or another on believing or convincing you that people were excited for it. No one else thought this was a good idea for the last 15 years. And it comes, it bombs, and it bombs at a time where theaters are in such dire straits through little fault of their own that we have to be sad when Tron Ares bombs.
Right.
Because it hurt theaters.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we should be okay.
Sick of rooting for Space Jam Legacy. I am sick of rooting for Snow White. I am sick of rooting for Tron Ares or Miami Vice Try It Again version or whatever.
There was a time when Battleship could come out and Battleship could bomb, and we could all laugh and say, "You're so stupid for having made Battleship." Battleship. That's the sequel to Beetlejuice. We all could laugh at battleship bombing because we knew that wasn't going to have an existential effect on the rest of movie going. Whereas now, and I'm sure they probably have another Battleship remake in development. If a Battleship movie came out next summer, we would all pray to whatever God we believed in. Please make this Battleship movie work. The theatrical industry needs this Battleship movie to do twice its budget. We need this. We would be begging that if anything
that a
was
board game, that an adaptation of a board game
would be a hit because we need it. We need it. That is the time we live in now, where we need Tron Ares and Battleship to be hits, or else our favorite pastime might go away.
Or there'll be no more Roofmen.
And there'll be no more Roofman. I mean, let's talk about this Roofman. Scott, did you see Channing Tatum in Roofman? What is your, and I know Clayton and I are not critics, but you are a critic, sort of. What did you think?
I thought it was a solid 3-star programmer, very well acted, very well directed. It only cost $19 million. That surprises me because it looks like a real movie. I have issues in terms of, I don't think the film is willing to dig into its premise on a cultural and economic sense, because it doesn't want to risk you feeling bad at any point in time about either what the characters are going through, or in some cases what the characters choose to do. It's weird is, without going into details, I think the final 20 or so minutes do commit to the bit in a way that I was wondering if the whole rest of the film was like a fake out. But then there is a bit in the end credits that's not related to the movie per se, that sort of undercuts all of that to make sure that everybody leaves feeling happy in a way that I found very disingenuous.
Yeah. So I saw this Saturday. I liked it a lot, though. I would agree with everything you said there. It is a Channing Tatum movie in that it's the best use of Channing Tatum, in that you get to like the guy. He plays a good guy, even though obviously he's breaking into businesses and, all the terrible things he's doing. It's on his side, and he gets to do some romance. I think you've said it best, Scott. We want Channing Tatum to be a lover, not a fighter. Roofman, he gets to be a lover. And that third act does push you towards the darker Derek C. in France, Blue Valentine sort of tone. Not all the way. This is not A Place Beyond the Pines level tone, but closer to that. But I do think I saw this in a pretty full house in Brooklyn, and people were all in on this movie. There were things that were happening in the third act that were getting that audible reaction of like, oh no, like people were locked in. It's a crowd pleaser. And I think that this is the type of movie that, this is where I do think you could look at the post-COVID theatrical world, where I think at a different time it may have opened a little higher, but the legs on this are not going to be as good in this world as it would have been pre-COVID, where good word of mouth, the movie could have stayed. I think the bigger story about this movie is within a month it's going to be on Paramount Plus. And I think that is the problem with a Roofman type releases. This needed word of mouth, and we're not there yet. But what do you think, Scott? Do you think 8 million, this has a chance of breaking out to some degree, or it is what it is?
Well, I mean, again, the fact that it only cost 19 million means that, it's fine. Paramount will make money, even if it's over the long haul, over this picture. And it will, I will argue, add more value to their library than something like Smurfs, regardless of what grosses more in theaters. So it will, without saying, oh God, we need to do lots more of these, yay, it's also not going to dissuade them from the next Novocaine or next Roofman or what have you. And again, unfortunately, that's because it costs so little money to make. I mean, in the even in the mid 2000s, this would have cost 40 million, which, I don't even want to do the inflation on that, because you could afford to. And it was, films like Queen Latifah's Last Holiday cost $50 million, and that was okay because the marketplace justified it. People are complaining about One Battle After Another's budget, 140, okay, but a decade ago, that would have been 100. It's just inflation and rising production costs. And a decade ago, you would have had a more viable theatrical ecosystem that would have, at worst, gotten that film to 200 worldwide, and then it would have made up for it in the long run in post-theatrical. There's something, Mickey 17 is a better example of that, because that really did bomb, where it's like, oh my God, this film did 130 on a 120 budget. What the hell? But again, a decade ago, it would have cost 80, give or take.
Right.
It would have crawled to 200 because there were people that would just show up. Elysium did 300 or late under 300 in 2013. Wow. And that would have been enough with a vibrant post-theatrical ecosystem to make it at least worth a roll of the dice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because then the sci-fi heads would have bought the DVD with the commentary, the behind the scenes. How did they make all these doubles? What was the bodies that they throw in the furnace or whatnot? And that would have cleaned up, and then they would have had a profitable picture. And we just don't have that anymore.
And that's not to, I've been whining about this for literally a decade, but when we lost the people that A, go to the movies just to go to the movies, and B, show up for actors and actresses more so than nostalgia and or marquee characters, we lost a lot of the essential elements that made, frankly, most movies viable at a commercial theatrical level.
Mm-hmm. So Channing Tatum, he came out of COVID pretty strong as actually one of our movie stars who got on a little streak post 2021. He had The Lost City with Sandra Bullock. Of course, Sandra Bullock is the A star. Brad Pitt was also in that, but that was a original movie made over 100 domestic. He had Dog, which was a real leggy surprise. Opened 14, probably legged out to 50 something domestic, 60 maybe. And then he had a bit of a stumble. He's got I keep wanting to call it Pussy Island because that was the working title. Blink Twice. He had Magic Mike 3, which was really a COVID-y streaming movie that just went into theaters and bombed. Had a couple of stumbles there. Where is Channing Tatum, do you think, as a bankable star? Because again, Roofman is, I think, using him the way he should be used, though the movie is a bit smaller scale. But to me, he comes out of this with a bit of a rebound. Opened at 8 million. The movie's good. He's good in it. But what do you think of Channing Tatum still as a bankable star?
If I'm choosing to be optimistic, first of all, Blink Twice did, I think, 40 on a 20 budget globally, so that's fine. Partially because it is, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's not a feel-good movie.
No, I have seen it. Yes.
So if anything, that was him using his star power to get something made, which is, something we should also champion when the budget is right. Something like, back when Jennifer Lawrence used her star power to get Mother made.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that Mother was going to be a huge hit, but anyway, digression.
Right.
I think because it's a 1980s, 1990s movie star opening, but on a 1980s, 1990s movie star budget, which I think is a huge difference. And we all know this would have made a lot less with 90% of any other people you might fan cast in this. I think, as long as there wasn't anything that would prevent all parties from making the money they deserve, blah, blah, blah. I think, again, he comes out fine on this because, just Channing Tatum in a movie is worth, 30 worldwide? I'm guesstimating here. I haven't even looked at the overseas numbers yet. And as long as your movie only costs 20, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not great.
But I mean, this is probably I was going to say, this is probably... Is this going to end up being the biggest Derek Cianfrance directed movie? I mean, I might be missing something. I keep thinking of Place Beyond the Pines and Blue Valentine. I don't know if he has a IP movie he directed that I'm forgetting about, or if something like Place Beyond the Pines actually did bigger numbers than I'm remembering.
Depressing, yes, in that Place Beyond the Pines in 2012 did 47 worldwide on a 15 budget.
Wow. Okay.
Today, a movie like Roofman doing 47 worldwide on a 19 budget would be almost aspirational.
Wow, you're right. I totally underestimated how much that made. Yeah.
No, I had to look it up. And this is neither criticism nor compliment, but I was amused at how the first act of Roofman kind of feels like, what if the first act of Place Beyond the Pines got thrown through the studio test screening process? Again, that's neither criticism nor compliment. It just amused me.
Yeah, he is on a bicycle a lot in this movie. Makes you think, what if he was on a motorcycle going through a loop-de-loop? Yeah, it's practically the same movie.
He also did The Light Between Oceans in 2016. He was the director and screenwriter of that, made $12 million in worldwide 22 altogether.
Okay, so this could end up around where his biggest movie is. So good for him. Yeah, it feels like this is going to be a win. I think, though, the thing that I'm pre-upset about is I could see the path where this doesn't get that many weeks in theaters, and we're going to be seeing it on Paramount Plus before Thanksgiving, if not Halloween. And I think that 10 years ago, obviously this movie would have had a chance to build on good word of mouth in a way that it might not get now.
I am slightly more optimistic on that front, and maybe I'm delusional, but over the last few years, I will argue that more movies, big and small, successful and not, have had better post-theatrical legs than what would have been expected in the 2010s. Like even
Okay.
something like Fall Guy, which technically bombed, it still did well over 3 times its 27 opening weekend. Even something like Deadpool and Wolverine, which you'd think would be the most front-loaded, success notwithstanding, front-loaded, comic book movie of the moment, it opened up 211 and was still leggier than the first 2 Deadpool movies. So if this does leg out to, I guess, 3 times its opening, does 25, and then maybe does another 25 overseas, does 50 worldwide, then yeah, no question it's a hit. It's almost double the budget. But I think, especially in this new normal where licensing is sort of making a comeback because guarding walling your stuff is stupid, and David Zaslav may be the devil, but he was ahead of the curve on that. Kudos to him. That I do think you can sell this as a risk worth taking or a modest piece of the puzzle that may be a long form win, because, and forgive me for going one of my TED Talks, but what I think studios really do need to be doing, and they've kind of been doing it this year, which is releasing movies like this and a reasonable budget with movie stars, young and old, with high concepts that in a sane world might seem theatrically appealing, and reacclimating audiences slowly to the idea of showing up to a movie just because a movie star or stars are in it and the film looks good or fun to see in theaters. And you can call these sacrificial lambs, you can call them, the slow march of whatever, but I do think that movies like Flight Risk and One of Them Days, which was a hit, Companion, Hard Eyes, Love Hurts, Bagman, Caught Stealing, etc., those are Hollywood doing what they should be doing. And if I'm right, then we are merely living through the very hard first act of that slow, just a movie recovery. As long as the studios don't give up, then I have hope.
I love it. It's the post superhero come down where we've got to make and release real movies again, rather than just count on the superhero movies flooding the market.
And that genre ate up a lot of genuine great talent. And now they are free to do these sort of movies. They're no longer getting these huge paychecks like waved in front of their eyes, where they're like, well, this is generational money if I play Octopus Man,
right,
or whatever in this movie. Instead, the agents are saying, maybe don't do this because this is not going to look good for you. The money's not the way it was, and people are turning their backs. Maybe you should do this small movie.
Yes.
One movie also, that, in the 2010s, these Marvel and to a certain extent DC movies were likely to be relatively good and relatively successful. So there was really no downside unless you had an aversion to that kind of work, and, no judgment either way. So, why wouldn't you follow up your Oscar win for Room by playing Captain Marvel, a sure to be well-reviewed and well-received billion-dollar movie? Of course, that's what you do. And she was right to do it then. It just, things change.
So one movie we do want to get your take on, because we're now in weekend 3 of One Battle After Another. It made 6.6 million, 39% drop. It's at 54 million after, 17 days or so. Is this movie, pretty much one of the most well-reviewed big theatrical movies of the year? It's pretty much this and Sinners as far as the reviews for studio movies. It looks like it's going to be an Oscar contender. And yet this 54 million, it's one of those where I think we all wished it was a little higher there. Why do you think this is right where it always should have been? Or is there something missing where this didn't break out? And obviously Sinners is a genre movie. It's a horror movie. Weapons had a lot of young people buzz. But I think there was some hope Leo could have got this to be a buzzy hit. And it seems like it's not going to go that direction, even though it's like holding fine.
Yeah, and I think simplistically speaking, why did Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi agree to, take a risk on a $140 million movie like this? And the answer was, on paper, it looked like most of Leo's adult skewing breakouts in the 2010s. So it was not unreasonable to hope that, give or take, post-COVID curve or streaming or whatever you want to call it, that a movie like this that was well reviewed and fun. It is a fun, funny action comedy. Looks great on a big screen. Has Oscar buzz. It was a hard one to market because I think understandably they were trying to avoid the inevitable right-wing backlash until after it came out. So now everyone, the Shapiros of the world look like they showed up 5 minutes late to the parade and everybody's gone home. So kudos to you on that, assholes. But anyway,
I do wonder actually with this movie because it actually hasn't broken through to even have that much controversy, and I wonder if that would have helped it if this movie was a movie like this, more of a lightning rod. In some ways, it doesn't feel like it's getting talked about at the level that it would need to break out.
I think it's a different environment than back when Basic Instinct and that controversy would drive people to a theater. Now the people who complain about these movies never see them. They'll just only read an article about how terrible it is and the scenes that they should be angry about, and they won't put their money where their mouth is and see it. So that wouldn't have helped at all.
There is something though that if this movie got a little bit more back and forth, I think at least it would have been in the discussion in a way in which it feels like movie fans talk about it a lot, but it hasn't broken through to just people at the water coolers talking about
a couple things, and I don't entirely disagree with you. My feeling is that had this been embroiled in the quote unquote culture war prior to release, that tends to only help movies or be irrelevant to movies that people were already going to see. Maybe Joker was an even bigger hit because of all the nonsense the month before it came out, but it was still Joker. It was still going to be successful. Obvious example, but The Dark Knight was always going to be a rock solid hit. But then Heath Ledger died, and that made it a mainstream news event, blah, blah, blah. And then the movie was so damn good that everyone that showed up out of curiosity said, holy shit, this is actually awesome. You should see this. With this, it's the controversy over, say, Tully being mean to people with postpartum, which is bullshit. What didn't hurt because nobody went to see the movie anyway. Didn't help because all of the top SEO results were people saying this movie is like hurtful and hard to watch and whatever. And there is a difference between something like Joker, which was basically turned into this, you have to see it to believe it, and or you won't believe how extreme it is. Can you take it? Whatever. I don't want to say endurance test because that's wrong. But versus something like this, where like if the conversation had been how politically of the moment it was, there would have been even more people that were saying, good God, on both sides of the aisle, good God, I don't want to deal with that shit right now.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever you think about Eddington, and I like Eddington in a vacuum, that certainly is the movie that we needed 2 or 3 years ago, not now.
Yeah, there's and this movie's doing fine, and we are not here hammering about the budget. The budget is the budget. This movie is gonna make money. It's gonna be viewed on these platforms and licensed for the next 20 years. It's probably gonna win Best Picture. Greenlighting this was a success.
Yes, and when you have the year that Warner Brothers has had just the last 6 months, this should be what the tentpoles pay for.
Right.
This should be what the surprise smashes justify over the long run. Because again, this is going to look, $140 million on one battle after another. I'm going to go on a limb here and say long term, it's probably going to have more long term value commercially, artistically, culturally than Pan.
Yeah,
just throwing that out there. Pan.
Yeah. Then Aquaman 2 probably. It'll probably make more money 10 years from now than Aquaman 2.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, sorry, this thing it's at 54, which is way bigger. I mean, There Will Be Blood, it was at 40, and this is gonna make more. And then
But it's a Leo
worldwide, 138 million. It made 83.5 internationally. I mean, the highest that
surprisingly well overseas.
Yeah, and so and we're we talk domestic here, huh? But still, and then There Will Be Blood was at 77 all in. So like, I think the hand wringing again, like I think
it's more the Leo than the PTA.
Yeah, it's
no one
Leo.
is saying I can't believe this PTA movie isn't at 100 million domestic. It's more that we always want Leo movies. It was
But there's Leo and Scorsese, and there's Leo and Tarantino, and then there's Leo and there's PTA, and there's a big difference in those team ups.
Leo also teamed up with
which only had Leo, was his third biggest grossing movie.
Exactly.
I admit, I expected that. That was bigger than even I expected 10 years ago.
Right.
And yeah, obviously, he was coming off Wolf of Wall Street, blah, blah. So I figured, okay, I imagine 300 isn't a big ask, but this was a very expensive movie. So it's only got Leo. What's going to happen? It does 535. Holy shit.
Right. Leo teams up with Baz Luhrmann and opens at 50 million. So, I mean, it's Leo had that run where it didn't matter who the director was. He pulled, listen, Scorsese's the greatest director of all time, but he didn't become a box office star, sans maybe Cape Fear, until Leo.
Yeah.
So Leo pulled these directors to new heights. And we were hoping that, and he did that with PTA. Obviously, PTA.
This is a height, and I think
new,
PTA.
This is a new height.
And I also think PTA is not a commercial director. He's just not.
No.
He's not. This is not a commercial film. It's fun in its
a more
way.
Civilized time, it would be. You know, if people still went to the movies, just go to the movies, and hey, this is a fun. Even the topicality. I mean, back in the day, movies were this topical just because the people that made them and wrote them were aware of the world. I mean, I never, I say this a lot, but I never thought I'd be nostalgic for big movies that were as brazenly political as Wild Wild West. But here we are.
Is there something to just again talking about the marketing of this movie and what could have been pulled out of it that maybe would have helped it more? Because there is something to audiences respond to you're going to get this big character, this big villain. Sean Penn's character really was hidden in the marketing. And I get why, if you want to do that, because you don't want to offend some people, but there is something to that. You did have this great big character that maybe could have been forefronted a little more in the marketing of this movie. What do you think, Scott? Is there anything in this movie, and we don't want to spoil, but are there elements that could have been more in the marketing that maybe would have been a value add for audiences if they knew I'm going to get this big, great villain. I'm going to get, James Downey. If James Downey was not in the marketing of this movie at all,
that was the mistake.
Is there anything you think, hey, we've got the guy from the speech at the end of Billy Madison in this movie, and that was not in the trailer?
Yeah. I mean, Sean Penn is obviously not a draw, more or less. He is at best an added value element because he's an excellent actor. But when I say I mean people my age or older. That being said, do I think that there's a publicity, a marketing campaign that might have more focused like simply on, burned out revolutionary has to find his courage and whatever to rescue his daughter when an old rival returns? Because that's the plot of the movie, for better or worse. Sure, but I think they tried that, especially toward the end. I think there was more of an emphasis on that. And I think without blatantly explaining what the movie was about, both plot-wise and subtext and culturally, I think they ran the marketing campaign about as well as they could. I don't think the first trailer was very good, but they got plenty of second chances because the later trailers were the ones that showed up on stuff like, Superman conjuring weapons and what have you.
I'm not for deceptive marketing, right? But there's the scene here in this movie, not giving anything away, where Leo and Benicio are having a few brews behind the wheel of a car, which we don't approve of, and they could have it on the screen, like, drink responsibly. We do not approve of this behavior. But
right. Like when you advertise gambling on your show, and then you have to say, here's the get help gambling.
Yeah, but then your whole show is about like lines and parlays and all that stuff.
Right.
And all that. But so here, and then you have them looking out the window. And in the movie, they're looking out the window and they're looking at, riots, and they're looking at all this different stuff. You maybe just show a few shots of like Hawaiian Tropic models. Their bus, broke down, their bikinis.
Right.
You see that. And then they drive, they're drinking a few more beers, and then they see like Spuds MacKenzie.
Right.
And Spuds MacKenzie's having a part in like, it toasts to them.
Yeah.
Something like that. And then they go by the Hawaiian Tropic male models.
Yeah.
And they're also broke down, they're all greased up, and they're like, hey, cheers them too, because that's great.
Right.
And then that's the thing.
The trailer. Yeah.
And then you're playing Van Halen in the background, everybody wants some.
Yeah.
And then that's the trailer.
So sell it as more of a Benicio Leo in a car party movie.
Yeah. And people would go, and then they wouldn't be mad with what they got.
Right. Because it's still fun.
Yes.
Because it's still fun. It's just a different kind of fun.
And my feeling is, in terms of misleading advertising, first of all, all's fair in love and war.
Mm-hmm.
But if people like the movie they get, they won't mind being misled.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. They're not going to be like, where are the Hawaiian Tropic models? There's not going to be like a class action lawsuit.
Right. Because they got James Downey, and that was all they needed. So one last thing I just want to get real quickly, Scott. What happened with J-Lo in this Kiss of a Spider Woman from Roadside Attractions? It opened at number 11, 1 million. Was this supposed to be at some point a much bigger movie and a much bigger release than it actually was? Was this a big production that got botched? What happened here? Because it feels like this
My recollection, and if I'm wrong, mea culpa, I'm going off memory here, is that the film debuted, got decent buzz, and then nobody bought it, basically, for whatever reason. I mean, there's 100 reasons why, but and it ended up getting the low scale Lionsgate buy. Something like Americana, which I quite liked, from Sydney Sweeney a few weeks ago, that everyone pretended it was like some major star vehicle. It flopped. What happened? But so it basically got the, forgive me, Lionsgate minimum, which is gets a week of wide or semi-wide release, minimal marketing. It looks good in the Lionsgate library because apparently it's good. I have not seen it yet. I'll try this week. But as far as what happened, nobody that wanted to spend a lot of money to make it an event stepped up to buy it and spend the money to make it a real big event.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's and that's not a reflection of the film's quality. It has nothing to do with J-Lo. Especially in the last 10 years, we've seen countless quote unquote movie stars that have movies like this that like barely exist. Mm-hmm. But unless they're SEO clickbait, nobody pretends that they were supposed to be huge hits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Ben Affleck had one. With Ketchup Entertainment, was it the
Memory?
Yes.
Yeah,
it wasn't Memory. It was a different one, but it can't, and it does not exist.
Memory was a Liam Neeson one.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, that movie, it did feel like something had to be up there because it's a remake of did that win Best Picture in the 80s, or was it big movie in the 80s? But
I know it was nominated for many Oscars. I don't know offhand.
I think there was an actress win.
So and just real quick, just want to get your take on just a couple of upcoming October movies. You could give us a thumbs up, thumbs down on the box office prognostications. Is Black Phone 2 going to recapture the magic of Black Phone 1? That movie got to what, 92 million domestic? That was that summer 22? So it was sort of one of the movies in the Elvis summer that had good legs. I I've seen this trailer again recently. I actually think this could work because I think the premise of Ethan Hawke's character now being in the afterlife on the phone, it feels like a pretty good hook if you had to make a sequel to this movie. What do you think? I feel like it's going to do well.
I don't think it's going to be as big as the first one for a number of reasons. But with the caveat that most of the critics, horror nerds and otherwise, seem to like it a little bit more than I do. So I'm not going to assume that my displeasure is a majority opinion. So if it opens with, the first one opened, I think, like 22, 23, which is great. If this gets anywhere near 20, I would count it as a win.
Okay.
Because Blumhouse has been in like a 2-year or almost 3-year losing streak. Yeah. I mean, I like some of their movies more than others, but let's not pretend that they've been setting on the world on fire with basically anything they've released since Megan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even Megan 2 flopped. That was holy shit. That was the scariest flop of the year. For a couple of reasons. One, because it was well liked, it was well reviewed, it was well received. You'd think the sequel would at least not bomb, even if it doesn't capture lightning in a bottle again. The other thing is, like, for all people like me talk about how making more franchises for kids, this was a franchise or it was a film that was popular, at least partially because the kids showed up. And for them to reject it now, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I do think
Blumhouse is a real problem long term because they're not where people think of and or go to for challenging, interesting, exciting new horror anymore.
Yeah.
They've been usurped by IFC, A24, and Neon.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least with Black Phone 2, as opposed to Megan 2.0, they haven't turned the Grabber into an action star. The Grabber is still a horror villain.
I don't know. He is ice skating, and there is that scene in the trailer where he's ice skating.
Okay,
and I do think it's a
Without
little
going into
ridiculous
details,
looking.
they like spend a lot of time building that up and or explaining why he could do that.
Okay.
I mean,
Why he
no
can ice
spoilers,
skate.
but like the Indian's human form, he was a good ice skater.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's like, well, that's interesting that you felt the need to justify that. Okay.
Okay. Well, Megan, we talked about first Megan movie, second Megan movie. Allison Williams was the star. She's the star of what I think, and I think Clayton, you'll be on the same page here, is going to be maybe the biggest movie that opens in October. I am high on this. Regretting You.
Mm-hmm.
It's Colleen Hoover. It is opening October 24th. I mean, how big could this go? Could this be, what was the Colleen Hoover, Blake Lively movie?
It ends with us.
It Ends With Us. Could this be that level? Could this be a just holy shit, I cannot believe this is opening to 40 million type of movie?
I would not. I would be happily surprised, if only because going back 30 years. Excuse me. Going back 30 years, it's worth remembering that not a single other John Grisham adaptation earned even 75% of what The Firm pulled off.
Wow. Okay.
So you had the book everyone loved with the biggest movie star, blah, blah, blah. Now, The Pelican Brief was a hit. The Client was a hit. The Chamber was not. A Time to Kill was a hit, but none of them got anywhere near what The Firm did.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they were still successful on their own terms. I think, idealistically speaking, if this might do what we cautiously hoped It Ends With Us would do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
As opposed to being, those of us that knew or hoped that, this really could fucking break out. And that's a case where I think the online nonsense helped the film.
Yeah. And Blake Lively,
it got everyone talking about it.
And Blake Lively was a star at
yes.
that level with those sort of movies, more so than Allison Williams is.
I mean, Allison Williams, though, she keeps herself pretty special. And I know Megan 2.0, but she's been in hits. Megan was a hit. Get Out was a hit. Streamo, but that movie where she's the cello player or whatever.
I can't believe you're pulling that one out. Yeah.
But she,
good movie, though, if I recall.
It is.
I think it's a good movie.
On a Netflix curve.
She does keep herself pretty special, and also Marty from Girls, iconic Queen. So I think she actually is the perfect person to star in a Colleen Hoover movie right now.
Even if I were to disagree with her, and I'm not saying I do, it's an ensemble cast. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have people that theoretically appeal to most demographics. If you are young, depending on your sexuality, you are going to be thirsting over McKenna Grace and or Mason Taves, or both. No judgment. If you are a little bit older, you will be thirsty over Dave Franco in hardcore nerd mode. Mm-hmm. My wife will like that, as well as Allison Williams. And lesser screen time notwithstanding, you've got, I forget her name, but she's a young woman in the Scream show. I'm always happy when I see her employed because it's like, oh, good, she's still around. She was in very briefly House of Dynamite, Catherine Bigelow's new movie.
Okay.
And then you have Scott Eastwood for what that's worth. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
So you have an ensemble cast of people that Willa Fitzgerald is her name. Forgive me.
Willa Fitzgerald. Okay.
You have people that maybe not on their own are of much value, but as a combo package might be enough to say, oh, and it has these people that I know and like. So you have a marquee author. You've got an ensemble cast. You don't have anywhere near as streamlined a plot as something like It Ends With Us or even Where the Crawdads Sing.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine if the book is popular enough, that won't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
And maybe
but
some of the controversy from the It Ends With Us fiasco will help this out. Maybe people think, oh, I'll get to see the end of that trial if I go see this movie. So that could help.
I mean, I
no comment.
applaud Dave
I
Franco
don't think
for pulling himself away from his wife long enough to be in this film.
To act with
I
a different
mean,
Allison. I mean,
if you were married to Allison Brie, would you?
Oh
True.
no, yeah, no judgment, of course.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be stay at home. But I think the thing too is that Colleen Hoover fans are voracious. They read all of the books. They want all the adaptations they can get. So I know that was the biggest one to start with, is It Ends With Us, because that I think there are other books in that series. But I do think that this is going to show that Colleen Hoover is a name herself.
And hopefully an IP that the kids care about. Now, last thing we'll ask you about, Scott, opening that same weekend on October 24th, talking about musty old IPs that the kids do not give a flying S about. Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere opens. Are we talking a Tron level? And obviously it's not going to open anywhere near as much as Tron, but in terms of executives who think that people care about something that is long gone and done, Bruce Springsteen as an IP in a movie. I mean, what do you think? Do you disagree? I obviously think this is going to be a disaster, but
I'm reluctant to say disaster because the music is still popular, and I do think the boomers over under my age, what am I, Generation X? I don't know.
You're
I do
like
think
me, like Clayton. You're also Generation
Millennial
X.
XX.
No, we're all Gen X.
I think some of the olds will show up, and if it is good, and it's gotten decent buzz to my knowledge, it will presumably figure in the Oscar conversation, if for no other reason that Disney doesn't have a ton else to spend money on other than Avatar in that capacity. I think it'll probably open somewhere between Elvis and whatever the
Bob Dylan movie.
Yeah,
you think it'll? You think it
not,
could open around the Bob Dylan movie level?
Well, that only opened to like what, 9 million, I think. Am I wrong? Did I get that wrong?
Did that? I mean, that legged out to what, 70 domestic? Obviously, this doesn't have Timmy. If Timmy was playing Bruce, then you're bringing actual young people to this musty old IP that is Bruce Springsteen.
Well, I think the bigger issue is that, according to the trailers, this is Deliver Us From Nowhere, the John Landau story, more so than it is Bruce Springsteen. John Landau, of course, being his manager and record producer, played by Jeremy Strong, who narrates both of the two trailers at the end that have been released recently. It worked for Elvis, but we're talking Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And this is Jeremy Strong.
One of the greatest performances of his career.
He should have got the supporting actor nom for playing Colonel Parker. That was great.
And as a Springsteen fan, a diehard Springsteen fan, I am not looking forward to this movie because I think Cooper is a bad fit as a director. This looks like no fun whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're centering Jeremy Strong, who I find to be unbearable to watch mostly, that's just my opinion. This is a turnoff for me as a big Bruce Springsteen fan. I will see this opening night, but I am not excited.
Would this, obviously it would have done better, but should they have just ported over Tom Hanks as Colonel Parker from the Elvis verse? Say he was Bruce Springsteen's manager, mash those together. There's your Bruce Springsteen movie. Hanks as the Colonel leading Bruce through the production of his Nebraska album.
It certainly wouldn't have hurt, and I would have been more interested to see it just for curiosity. Yeah. I also think, all due respect to Coppola, that the one about his wife, Elvis's wife from a couple years ago.
Yes, Priscilla. Directed by
that
Sofia
would have
Coppola,
also been a bigger hit and or more interesting if they had ported over Tom Hanks' character from Elvis. But I digress.
Listen, Tron Ares would have done a lot better this weekend if that universe had ported over Tom Hanks as the Colonel into a digital action movie.
What if he's talking to him instead of the dude, and they're talking about Elvis instead of Depeche Mode?
Just have the evil businessman villain, instead of creating Jared Leto,
it's Colonel Parker.
He creates Colonel Parker, Tom Hanks, and there's your lead. That would have opened, I would say, 45 million instead of 32 million.
Oh yeah. I mean, are there any movies that wouldn't be improved by him? I mean, Schindler's List, Weapons,
Yeah.
Sophie's Choice,
Schindler's List would have been tough. I'm not
Killing
saying it couldn't
Fields.
have been done. Obviously, Spielberg and Hanks have a great working relationship, but
Yeah.
that one would have been tough. I mean, it could have
I
turned
mean,
out to be
phone booth. If the guy, all due respect to Kiefer Sutherland, if the guy on the rooftop with the sniper rifle is, the Colonel from Elvis, played by Tom Hanks.
What a twist! What a twist that would have been.
Right. You don't know it's him the whole time. I mean, yeah, In the Line of Fire, classic movie, Clint Eastwood, and I love Malkovich in that part. But if the whole movie, Clint Eastwood, Secret Service agent, is on the phone, and on the other line, we finally reveal it is Tom Hanks as Colonel Parker is the one who says, and you'll be standing over the grave of another dead president. But he says it in that Southern accent. That movie, as great as it is, I think it would have been even better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah,
it's maybe one of my favorite straight up thrillers of the '90s, but I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah.
Although, and then I'll shut up about this. Five Nights at Freddy's. That would work. Maybe this one would be decent if they did that. Anyway, one last thing, and then I'll shut up. First of all, no, I'm not remotely bullish on Deliver Me from Nowhere, but because the Dylan one did a little bit better than I was expecting, I'm not going to write it off quite yet. Although if I had to make a bet, I would side on the side of...
Yeah. And Jeremy Allen White coming off of pretty much 2 disliked seasons of a Hulu show, The Bear, that is a tough sell as your lead. Timmy was a movie star. Jeremy Allen White's coming off of people saying, oh, I liked that show 3 years ago, and then I started to hate it.
Yeah, the goodwill's gone there.
Yeah, that's a tough sell.
Season 3. Did people not like season 4? I'll be honest, I really liked season 4. I stopped after the wedding episode because in a weird way, it was such a perfect series finale that I almost don't want to watch the 3 episodes where presumably everything goes to hell at the end.
I ended up watching all that, and we're not the Streamer Boys, but I would say you could stop when they're just under that table at the wedding. That was fine. Yeah. That's enough. But yeah, I don't think he's coming into this movie with a lot of momentum as a star. So that's going to be tough.
As far as, because I mentioned this earlier, in terms of how we judge one battle after another, for me, it's very similar to Tenet, which is that in the same way that an original sci-fi action thriller with limited fantasy elements, without 100-watt movie stars, talent notwithstanding, had made $366 million worldwide, COVID or no, that would have been a giant triumph from anyone other than Chris Nolan. Mm-hmm. Likewise, I think a movie like One Battle After Another, as it exists, making, let's say, 225 for Ferrari numbers, would have been a huge triumph for the adult movie had it starred anyone other than Leonardo DiCaprio. For what that's worth.
Right. Yes, of course. If this is Ben Affleck or even a Matt Damon now in that part, everyone would be dancing in the streets. But
and I think just as a Springsteen fan, I think the fact that this movie exists led to Springsteen finding and releasing, it's coming up, a electric version, studio version of Nebraska. Ugh. He found the tapes, and that is enough for us to make this movie worthwhile. So if this movie is getting people to know that exists, then it should exist.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of kids will buy that record. So, Scott,
it's multi-records. It's a big throbbing set of records.
And final thing, and you'll be on many times before this comes out, but I just want to get super quick temperature check on Avengers. What the hell is this called again?
Doomsday.
Over under $1 billion worldwide.
Over only because it's opening at Christmas.
Okay. That's all. We will talk about this a lot more going forward. The hesitation that you had on a Avengers movie getting to $1 billion, I think that says it all.
But Scott, did you do the move where you realized that Shrek had moved? Like, did you do that in mind? You were like over because you saw Shrek move on the calendar in your brain.
Yeah, I did the whole, you can't get, from Aaron Eckhart from The Dark Knight, you can't give in to these people. You can't give in. Or Brendan Fraser in School Ties. Cowards.
Yeah.
Because they could have stayed. They could have fought. And they would have won.
Yeah. School Ties is an IP that's due for a reboot, I think.
School Ties Ares.
We can hear you.
So Scott Mendelson, of course, now when you were delivering that pizza, we of course said outside stack. Everyone listening to the show is morally obligated to pay for the outside stack. They owe you. We all
Wait,
owe
what's the name of
you.
it? It's a Substack.
Outside Scoop. The Outside Scoop on Substack, of course. The Outside Scoop. Scott Mendelson. Everyone is obligated to go pay for that. The BO Boys do. Our listeners, they better. Anything coming up on the Outside Scoop Substack that you think we should be getting ready for, salivating over?
Nothing beyond the usual nonsense of trying to figure out how to write articles about TRON Ares without repeating stuff I've said 100 times over the last decade.
You will do it. And of course, your podcast, the Box Office Podcast. What's new and exciting there? I mean, the BO Boys have been listening. It's great. You know, you've entered our space, and we're so happy to have you here in Box Office Podcasting. Anything exciting there that you have coming up?
I mean, if I say no, that does not imply that each episode is boring. It's just more of what you like, one hopes.
Great. I mean, it is a must listen. It is a must listen. The BO Boys and Scott Mendelson's Box Office Podcast. You have to listen to them both back to back. I mean, back in the if we were on the radio, this would be the unbeatable combo. It would be us in the morning, Scott Mendelson midday, of course, Podcast Jesus Kirk Minahan, drive time afternoon. It would be the #1 radio station worldwide that there is. So now just listen to all our podcasts. Of course, email us, theboboyspodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe to our Substack, link in the show notes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are YouTubers. Hey guys. Follow us on social media at the BO Boys Pod on Instagram, on TikTok. The videos blowing up this past week with our guest last week, Kelly Keegs. Outstanding. So you got to follow us on social media. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And that is it. Guys, I got nothing else. Thank you, Scott Mendelson, for being here as part of Startober. And guys, the next episode, I'm not going to say here because, you know, last minute things can happen, but we have a giant star scheduled for the next one. And my God, is it? Oh, it's bigger than that. This is big. And you can't even picture who this would be because it's that big. You can't even picture it. So I won't say anymore, but a big guest, and you can't even picture who it's going to be. So next episode is a must listen. Clayton, that's all I got. I got nothing left.
R.I.P. Diane Keaton.
R.I.P. Star of Mac and Rita. Diane Keaton.
Summer Camp.
And Summer Camp. Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, we love Diane Keaton.
We do.
We Absolutely. Do love her.
Didn't want to leave this episode without paying respects.
Nope.
And so I've said it all.
I've said it all as well. Scott said it all.
Nothing left to be said.
Nothing left to say. Go watch Annie Hall right now.
Except for, until next time,
we'll smell you at the box office. Nailed it. Hey, guys.